This is Kristian Wade, Executive Chef at the Beau Rivage, and you're listening to the Eat Y'all podcast.
Welcome to the Eat Y'all podcast, where we discuss the struggles and successes of the farmers, food producers, and chefs who are working to get better ingredients into restaurants today and to ensure their availability in the future.
Eat Y'all is looking for partners to help us show some love to 500 hardworking chefs. With our Care Package program, you can encourage and inspire chefs who fit your target market. Learn more at eatyall.com/love. That's eatyall.com/love.
Welcome to the Eat Y'all podcast. I'm your host, Andy Chapman. It's great to be back with you guys again this week. We've got an extraordinary story for you today. I was able to record in person, and if you know me, you know I'm a people person, so I really loved that.
Yep, and you were right here at home on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. You went down to the Beau Rivage for this one.
The Beau Rivage is actually an MGM Resort, so it's one of the original epic casino properties on the coast. Not the first one, because when it became legal to have a casino in Mississippi, there were already casinos here. But the Beau Rivage was a big get to have the MGM Resorts put that. I mean, it's kind of a sister property to, is it the Bellagio?
The Bellagio in Vegas, yeah.
So it's really cool. But their chef, Executive Chef Kristian Wade, is our guest today. And he talks about just being on a property that size with the tremendous amount of meals they serve in a day. It could be 7,500 in a day. And that has a huge impact on farms. And he is actually looking for new and great ingredients all the time.
Yeah, and we had Kristian at one of our producer workshops earlier last year, and his excitement to find new ingredients for his restaurant is really contagious. And I just love the way he talks to farmers and listens and understands how they grow what they grow or produce what they produce. And he has just such a heart and a mind for bringing great ingredients to his customers at the Beau Rivage.
And you said that's contagious, and I'm going to go ahead and just clarify. That's contagious in a good way. We can't throw that word around lightly these days. But
sure.
I really can't wait for y'all to hear what Kristian Wade has to share with us about their supply chain issues and his quest for better ingredients and how much time he spends. I mean, I think this is one of the big things that I hope chefs will take away from this is he talks about training his staff 30 minutes a day in all their different properties about what's on the menu. You know, that turns out to be, and we get into this a little bit in the podcast, but that's about 120 hours a year
of continuing education.
For the servers. You'll hear a lot more about that, but can't wait to get into this next episode with Chef Kristian Wade.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the Eat Y'all podcast. I'm your host, Andy Chapman, and I'm on location inside the belly of the beast up here on what floor are we on, Kristian?
We're on the mezzanine floor, second floor of the
second floor of the Beau Rivage, an MGM resort in downtown Biloxi, Mississippi, with a beautiful view of the Gulf Coast. And I'm visiting with Chef Kristian Wade, who's the executive chef of the Beau Rivage. And Kristian, I read that you came to this property in 1999. Is that true?
That's right. About a month before we opened. And I started here as a cook in Memphis Q, working the charcoal grill over there. That's how I got my start here.
Wow. And so you did the culinary school thing, got on here, and now I guess we're
22 years later this month.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time for any, I mean, you're probably, other than chefs who own their own restaurant, you've got to be one of the longest tenured chefs that I know of.
I would imagine so, because there's not too many that I know of in the business either that have been in one place for this long. It's always been the challenge has always been there, and the learning opportunities have always been here. And this is home. And so to be able to come and work in a unbelievable property like this and still be home it doesn't happen every day. And so I've really taken advantage of it.
So you mentioned it's an unbelievable property. What does the Beau Rivage entail for someone who's never been here? You guys have a lot of different ways you can sell someone a morsel of food.
Yeah, it's basically everything. You never need to leave the property once you're here to have a good time. We've got a multitude of restaurants that cover basically anything you could ever want to eat. We have a great pool that'll open up sometime this month, and being that the season's so long here, our pool stays open for a while. course, we have gaming. We've got a great arcade for the kids, and so it's really just a great place to stay and have a great weekend or 3-day hop over or whatever it is. It's an awesome place to be.
And I love that y'all have got the Top Golf Swing Suite downstairs. I've had some good adventures there, doing the air quotes here, playing some courses on there. Mostly we just try to drive like we're actually at Pebble Beach or whatever.
Yeah, it really is a really neat place, and our Black Clover Lounge is there, and we've got some really high-end, great cocktails in there. And let's not forget about our actual golf course, Fallen Oak, that is just it's a masterpiece.
Oh, yeah.
It's a beautiful place to play, whether you can play or you can't play. It's truly magical.
Yeah, that's one of the top courses, not just in Mississippi, but in the South. And I know you guys host the Gulf Resort Classic, or whatever it's called this year, the Rapiscan.
Correct.
And I know we didn't get to have that actual tournament because COVID happened right around that time last year. But
we were preparing for it at that time. So.
I hope that happens. And so inside the building here, you guys have a steakhouse, an Asian place, a cafe,
an Italian restaurant, sports book bar, bistro kind of thing. We've got a coffee shop that we brew or roast our own beans. We've got a pool restaurant, full service. We will have our buffet back in the near future. Stop that operation for COVID, of course, but as things come back online and we look better and better, that'll be a huge benefit to us and our guests. So it's 12 restaurants in total.
Wow.
And 18 kitchens on the property.
That's a few, right?
Yeah, it's a big job.
So in a normal year, I know this is not normal yet, but like in 2019, I remember you talking about numbers, and there was somehow I remember the word 5,000 meals a day on some weekends. Is that?
That's accurate. Yeah, and sometimes more than that. It depends on that's typically a peak holiday, but we'll do upwards of around 7,500 meals.
Wow.
And that's when the buffet's fully operational and we're going.
So outside of the prisons and the schools, and I'm not comparing your food to them, by the way, but that would pretty much make you the largest single location of serving food in definitely the state of Mississippi.
I would say so, yes. Yeah. We've got 1,740 hotel rooms that we do service to, along with all the restaurants. So,
man, that's a big bite to take on. So you and I talked, I think it was, we've talked a couple of times through this whole COVID deal, but early on, I remember you talking to us about how a lot of things changed, sourcing. We all saw the run on toilet paper and ground beef and all those things. And, from a consumer side of things, a lot of times, you freak out and you stock up or whatever. But on a bigger scale with you guys, y'all had trouble getting some things too.
Absolutely. And to this day, we still struggle with getting some things because that supply chain is still suffering in some areas in both food and supplies. It continues to improve, and it seems to improve at a steady rate, but we still are running into some of those supply chain issues.
Well, and to be clear, y'all, plenty of toilet paper and food here at the Beau Rivage. Right.
Absolutely.
So there are things that were more of an issue than others. What other things have you guys dealt with like staffing and keeping up with who should be here, who should not be here, that kind of thing? Has that been something y'all dealt with?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. I would say several aspects. Business has been really good. And so in that area, there's been good in certain places. It's better in certain places than it is others. And so in that aspect, staffing can be a challenge in those areas that are just crazy busy. Once again, those things are all getting better as time goes on. I think there was definitely a fear factor in the beginning of people coming back to work and coming back into social settings, and work is a social setting to some point. And I think, though, that, as I say, it's getting better and people are much more comfortable, and we take all precautions to keep not only our guests safe, but our employees safe. And it's our number one priority. And so we take a hefty amount of precaution in keeping our staff safe. And so with that, there's definitely a higher level of comfort with staffing.
There was a time you talked about the early days. I remember when I think you told me you were here as the only guy cooking But you weren't cooking for customers. You're cooking for the staff that basically live here taking care of the place.
Yeah, the essential staff that was here, somebody had to feed those guys. And it was around 100 people. And it was everybody from people walking the property, doing fire watch, to people that were getting ready to get the place back open. You know, our goal was not to be closed down. Our goal was to be open. And so we wanted to get people back to work. We wanted to get our guests back in here. We wanted to operate. And so somebody had to make sure those guys were fed, trying to get us reopened.
That's an important task. And so how much time do you spend at this point in your career? Obviously, you're not standing there on the line all the time. But what does your job look like as far as allocation of management, training, following up with reports and all that stuff versus actual in the weeds cooking on busy nights or dealing with ingredients and vendors and all that?
It's probably in the 80% range of the administration side of the job is about 80% at this point. I make time to ensure that I stay in the game and that my head stays in the game, and I make time for study every day to ensure that I know what's going on, not only locally, regionally, but nationally with the food scene. So we're consistently working to be ahead of the curve here. And that's part of my job, is to make sure that we're ahead of the curve.
You were talking earlier about sourcing some new product in here, and I love that we walked past a lot of other chef offices on the way to yours, and the fact that you're excited and fired up about getting a product in that you guys think is going to be great, because you took that phone call right before we set this up. And I love that, because, you know, it's obviously clear you still have a deep passion for the actual food and the ingredients. Talking about, you know, kind of that topic, how does a small or medium-sized farm set up to do business with a place as big as this? Talk about that process and the importance of those guys.
I think, first of all, it's getting it into our hands. In this kind of environment, it's not easy for a small farm to get into an operation like this. Not that it's not. It's absolutely possible. And then it's willing to do the work that's required after the fact. But I think the most important thing is to get the product into our hands. And then, as you said, we get excited about these things. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the reason we do the job that we do, is our love for food and cooking and creating and great flavors. And, you know, for a chef, it's things we get excited. We get excited about a great tomato. We get excited about a beautiful piece of fish. And those are the things that make us want to come back and do this every day, because it's a hard job. And so to know that farmers put the love that they put into whatever it is they do, let's say a tomato, if it's a beautiful tomato, we're excited about it and we want to see it and we want to use it. That's what we want to serve is beautiful, great food. From there, typically we'll do the legwork if we're excited about the product, to get the product in the door. And then it's, as I say, you're not going to get a check at the back door. So, you're working with a corporation. So it's being patient and then working around the parameters of standard operating procedures. But in the end game, we want to put your name on the menu. We want to make sure that they know who you are. And when you see this many people, as you said, we may do 7,500 people on any given day. And so that's putting a lot of eyes on your product. So there's a lot of benefits to the process as well.
Yeah, it sounds like there's kind of almost a marketing effect of being in front of that many people day in and day out. Mm-hmm. If even if you're only on the menu at Beau Prime or Geo or something by name, there's still hundreds of people walking into that place every day that are going to say, "Oh, tell me, where did you get this?" That's when people start Googling or asking chefs about the ingredient, right?
Yes. I mean, most of the people that eat in our restaurants would like to consider themselves foodies at some point in the day. And so, how often do we get the question, where can I get this? It's a story we like to be able to tell, because a story helps us sell the farm's product. A story helps, I was talking to somebody about a piece of fish, and it's a gorgeous, beautiful piece of fish. And if people know the story behind that piece of fish, they're more apt to want to try it, to want to find out about it, to want to experiment and try something new. And so those stories help us push our guests into trying new stuff.
So you mentioned that you've got all these different locations. Part of what helps get things, so when a new fish hits the menu, how much time is spent with the service staff to educate them and put it on a menu? Because when it's by name on a menu, who's going to get asked the question? Well, they're not going to call the chef out, right?
No.
So talk about that process.
We spend time with our service staffs every day, about 30 minutes a day, pre-service. It's a continuing education. We want our service staff to know as much about the food as we know about the food, because they're the ones who are, as you said, communicating what we do to our guests. And so we do spend a lot of time on that education and that process of that.
So I'm not great at math, but if you're spending 30 minutes a day on kind of educating and menu training, that's like 10 plus hours a month or 120 hours a year on educating your frontline communicators about all the different products and things that are rolling out, coming on. Are you tasting them on, hey, we got this new thing in, this is this lamb that we got, and everybody try a bite of it and learn why it should be cooked this way, or what this process is?
Absolutely. And that's basically the process. We'll talk about what wines go with it. We'll talk about cooking processes, the best way to eat it, pairings as far as other food pairings, why we pair things with it, and as I said, the background of that particular product.
That seems like such a important thing if you're trying. I mean, ultimately you have a sales force out there, right? And car dealers and banks and all these people send people out for sales trainings and seminars and all this stuff. And a lot of times the restaurant industry just skips over that. I know some places do a great job, but sometimes you ask them, well, what is the sous vide pork chop? And they're like, let me go check on that. And then in the heat of the battle, right, you're dealing with a server going to the cook and saying, what comes on the sous vide pork chop? Yeah,
that's why it's so important to make sure that we communicate up front and treat it as a classroom environment. We make sure everybody pays attention, and they're professionals, and we expect that. That's our expectation, is that they work as professionals.
So going back to the farm side of things, what's been something that you brought in that was sort of a local farm product that you're real happy with how that kind of worked?
We were working with a pig farmer out of Loosedale, Mississippi for quite a while. I guess up until basically COVID hit. Dale Stevens, I guess I'm okay to say his name.
Yeah.
Sandridge Farms. And Dale takes utmost pride in his pigs, and it shows in the quality. And it was something that, as I said, we look forward to. It's something that he brought to us. And, it was a whole hog product, so it made us think about how to utilize every piece of that pig. For us, it was really neat to see a guy that took that much pride, and how much, I think we all get used to looking at commodity pork in a grocery store, and we don't realize how that much love can change a pork chop, let's say.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So did Dale seek you guys out? Was he knocking on the back door? How did y'all meet?
I was doing some classes over at the Mary C in Ocean Springs, and he came to one of those classes knowing that we were going to be there, kind of gave us a rundown, and we got to talking, and we went out to the farm and checked it out and saw what he was doing. From there, we worked out how we were going to get it here, and he went through the corporate purchasing department. It took a little while, but eventually we made it work.
That's awesome. Dale had a little foresight and tried to figure out how to make that, and then followed through. Because I know that y'all do have a little bit of paperwork involved.
We do. You're very familiar with it, so.
Yeah, but that's a great success story, and folks can probably take away a lot from that, because there's so much involved with getting a menu changed on something added to that at a scale this large. What are some things that maybe farms should not do or have done wrong in the past? You don't have to call anybody out, but as far as like that, that didn't work for you, that's not the best way.
As I say, I think it's more of a consistency thing and a follow-up thing. A lot of people want to sell Of course they do. As I said, it's a lot of work to sell to us. It's not just going to come to you, unfortunately.
Right.
We would love for it to be that easy. I would love for it to be that easy, but it's not. You have to follow up. You have to not necessarily beat down my door, but you've got to follow up and make sure that, when we send paperwork to you, stuff like that, to get filled out, that it gets filled out in a timely manner. And that's probably been where people have failed. It's just giving up on the process.
I can see that having worked with you guys and done this for many years, that there's so many times that it just takes a lot of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to get it done. But I think that's one of those things, if you think about it in terms of priming that pump. Once, it takes a long time standing by the well, taking the lever up and down. But once it starts going, oftentimes it doesn't take a ton to maintain and keep it going once it makes it all the way through those channels, right?
Yep.
You mentioned a little bit about your consumers. What kind of feedback are you getting on, products that they are like over the moon about, things that maybe y'all want to add to menus, or things that you're looking for? If we could find chanterelle mushrooms that are from, a forest 45 minutes from here or less, that'd be awesome. Is there anything that you're like, we need to find this?
I think, to be honest with you, we're consistently looking for those products. A lot of specialty stuff, chanterelles, for instance, we've got to have shipped in. Not only are we paying for the mushrooms, we're paying for freight. So there's a lot of cost involved with bringing in a lot of specialty produce. And if that produce was at your back, in your backyard, you're not paying for the freight. It hadn't been on a truck. It hadn't been in an airplane. It's coming out of the dirt and coming to us. And there's a huge benefit to that.
Yeah. I think it's inspirational what you guys are doing with. I think it would be real easy to just check the box and never order outside of whatever your main broadliners and maybe a specialty place or two are doing, and you guys put in the work to find great ingredients like this fish we were talking about earlier and some other things I'm sure you guys have in the pipe for 2021. So I appreciate you sharing some of that. We're going to jump into the lightning round, Kristian, and there's a lot of deep questions that we're going to try to accomplish here, and I hope you're ready.
I'm excited.
Buckle your seatbelt for this one. So we'll get into the lightning round with Kristian Wade right after this.
I think we can all agree that the past year hasn't been the easiest. Hardworking chefs are rethinking menus and product offerings while understaffed and overworked. Join Eat Y'all as we show some love to hundreds of hardworking chefs by giving them the gratitude they deserve and the resources they need to stay inspired. Learn more about how our care package program can work for you at eatyall.com/love. That's eatyall.com/love.
All right. Kristian, you get one answer on this one. Biscuits or cornbread?
Golly. Biscuits.
That's correct. I have so many people that are like cornbread, but then they justify the cornbread and all of that. So I can understand cornbread in some circumstances, but biscuits is obviously the correct answer. Favorite dessert?
Banana pudding.
Banana pudding. If you could eat only one item on a menu inside this building for the rest of your life, your order, like as soon as you make that order, that's the only thing you get, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh, that's a hard one.
But you got a lot more options than most people.
Absolutely.
I was thinking you'd go with king crab legs, but
no. I'm a lot more simple than that.
Y'all, he's perspiring at this question.
It's hard. The chicken pot pie in Terrace Cafe.
There you go. See, you got a little bread, you got some vegetables, and you've got a protein.
Mm-hmm. It's really good.
That's a well thought out answer. I like that. All right, do you cook dinner at home?
I do.
Do you get rave reviews from the staff there?
I get honest reviews. My wife is not scared to let me know if it's good or if it's not good or what she thinks about it anyways, whether I think it's good or not. And I got a 3-year-old that pretty much tells me everything's bad, so I got that going for me.
Wait till they're teenagers and you're cooking for them. Favorite barbecue: ribs, brisket, pulled pork, chicken?
Ribs.
There you go. Favorite cut of steak?
Culotte.
The culotte. Describe the culotte for our listeners.
It's a cap off of the shoulder And it's got a huge, if you've ever seen a Brazilian steakhouse and they do the picanha, that's the piece that's folded over and skewered and roasted. You don't have to eat it like that, but I like cut steaks off of it and grill those. It's an amazing piece of meat.
Nice. Favorite libation to pair with the steak or the chicken pot pie?
Is it, iced tea be an answer?
Iced tea can be an answer?
That's probably, that would be my answer is iced tea.
There you go. You can have dinner with any 3 people, living or dead. They're coming over to your house, and you're cooking dinner for them. Who do you invite?
It's pretty easy for the first 2. I would definitely invite my grandmother and my father. Both of them are gone, but both of them were huge influences in my career and in what I chose to do for a living. And the third, I know the typical answers would be, but
we get a lot of Anthony Bourdain, I'm not going to lie.
No, I'm not no. It would probably be somebody that, and once again, I just don't want to say any names, but maybe somebody that I worked with in the past and that I have a lot of respect for. And he would be definitely somebody I'd want to come to that dinner.
There you go. Favorite band, any concert in history that you're going to go to a concert. You can pull Frank Sinatra out of there. You can go with
John Prine.
John Prine. There you go. A man we lost last year. And Dear Abby is one of the first songs I learned on the guitar.
My favorite.
And what's the other one about the long black, Angel from Montgomery. Classic. Yeah. That was a good one. So if your wife, it's Grace, right?
Right.
She gets a phone call and says, Kristian's locked up in downtown. What does she think you've done?
Oh,
it could be county lockup too.
I've had a great time.
There you go. Fair enough. So a year from today, we're celebrating with either a big glass of sweet tea, unsweet tea, Dom Perignon, whatever it is. What are we celebrating a year from now that's going on in your life?
A couple of things. I got a daughter on the way. Be here in a few months, and so we're really excited about that. And I think that the other thing a year from now is that we're COVID free and life is back to normal.
Very good. Well, there you go. Kristian Wade, thanks for joining us on the podcast, man. It's been a real treat.
Hey, I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Eat Y'all podcast, hosted by Eat Y'all founder and Chief Relationship Officer, Andy Chapman. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd join us in our mission to save family farms by subscribing and leaving a review. Even better, share this episode and follow us on your favorite social media account at Let's Eat Y'all.